Nigeria stands as a key player on the African continent and beyond. Understanding the nation's foreign policy direction is crucial as it navigates complex international relations, economic partnerships, and regional security challenges. In over a year, Nigeria's foreign relations in West Africa has been turbulent, to say the least. The country's leadership of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has tested its long-held focus on Africa as an anchor of its foreign policy. The departure of 3 countries, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, from the ECOWAS bloc continues to overshadow its leadership of the body by President Bola Tinubu. The country's renewed partnership with France has also taken center stage. Abroad, there are several pressing matters, from challenged missions to conversations around reform of multilateral institutions, trade agreements, repatriation of stolen funds, international partnerships, and key global issues impacting the nation. What are Nigeria's evolving diplomatic priorities, and how will this shape the country's presence on the world stage? I'm delighted to welcome a former ambassador to Germany and currently Nigeria's Foreign Minister, Ambassador Yusuf Tuggah, for a thought-provoking discussion on foreign policy, global relations, and strategies for Nigeria. Wonderful to have you, Honorable Minister.
Pleasure to be here.
I hope you don't feel rushed. We're running a bit late.
No worries.
Well, welcome. Thank you. Let's start with Nigeria's foreign policy priorities. Tell us exactly what it is at this moment.
Before I even go to that, I would like to object to you describing the hyperbole you used to describe Nigeria's relationship in West Africa, to say that it's turbulent, to say the least. That's far from it.
Okay, so what is it? With all the problems, what is it? Yes.
We've had, certain vitriol churned out every so often from one country, and then the entire region consisting of 14 other countries. The relationship is being described as turbulent. I don't think it is. But anyway, let's move on. Our foreign policy, the foreign policy objectives are enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So that is not to do with any party manifesto or any individual agenda. It is something that is cast in the Constitution.
And what is it?
Well, first of all, our national interests, our place in Africa, and African unity and cooperation with other African countries. Then we talk about our commitments on the international stage, treaty obligations, economic order. There are 5 of them. So these are the things that we consider Nigeria's foreign policy objectives. Now, deriving from that, and don't forget that the Constitution itself, just to show you how important foreign affairs is, how important foreign policy is. After we the people, the next thing the Constitution mentions is our place in Africa and African unity.
Right.
So if you go by way of what I can describe as hermeneutics, hermeneutics is the study of the translation of text, of religious texts. So interpretation, translation of the Bible, of Quran, of Torah, Talmud, and so on. You find that there's a rule of thumb, which is whatever gets mentioned first is more important than what comes next.
Okay.
So that shows how important foreign policy is to Nigeria.
It is.
Now, because of that, the Tinubu administration came in with strategic autonomy as its fulcrum when it comes to foreign policy, which is, in other words, an extension of what we've practiced in the past, which is non-alignment. Because, by virtue of our position on the relationships, sets of relationships we have had over the years, our foundational outlook as a nation, and all of that works for us. And then we have the 4Ds, which I've explained countless number of times, which is democracy, development, demography, and diaspora.
Okay, that's a lot to chew, but within the context of those priorities, you do agree that we need missions around the world that are up and running and ambassadors to drive all of this. So can you explain to us why for over a year we don't have appointed ambassadors in our over 100 missions across the world? Please, can you make it make sense to Nigerians?
Well, first of all, I'm not the one that is empowered to appoint ambassadors.
Of course
it's
not.
The
You're
president
the
of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Yes.
And he will do so when he deems fit. Now, it does not mean that our missions are not running or they're not operating. We have 109 missions consisting of embassies, full embassies, as well as consulates around the world. In all of these missions, you have diplomats, okay, of different ranks. So in certain places, you actually have ambassadors, people that have risen to the level of ambassadors that are running these places. Okay, it just means that they have not presented their letters of credence.
Right.
They are not accredited as ambassadors. And you also have other, because an embassy or a mission is a microcosm of the Nigerian government. So you also have immigration officers, you have people from the defense section, and so on and so forth. So they continue to run these embassies.
Yes,
and don't forget that I was an ambassador in the previous government under the Buhari administration. I was posted out as ambassador in August of 2017. The government came into office on the 29th of May 2015. So this is still shorter.
Right.
Now we're talking, it's not even as long as it took to appoint ambassadors under the previous administration.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that
let's not
we have to
compare
take that
previous,
long, but I'm
yes.
just putting it into context.
But can you see why, I mean, it's over a year. Can you see why some would say it sort of shows somewhat unserious government? Do you see why it's important to do that? I mean, you're not the president, but you're the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Well,
I don't think it's entirely fair to describe it as, what did you say, unserious? I don't think that's fair. We have all sorts of challenges.
Right.
This administration has come in to face a countless number of challenges, multi-sectoral, in different sectors, because of things that should have been done over the years, that including economic reform, that has accumulated. So you have to prioritize. And in prioritizing, perhaps Mr. President has deemed it fit to delay appointing ambassadors. We're facing serious, it's not just us either, it's the entire planet that has faced serious financial and economic challenges due to COVID. It goes all the way back, in fact, to the 2008 global financial meltdown. So it's something that has carried over a long period of time.
Okay, so let's look at our leadership in ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States. Some would say that the president's leadership has been less than impressive because of all the problems we've had. How would you respond to that?
What are all the problems? I've asked you, you have not answered me, because you started with hyperbole in your opening preamble. You said
so within the West African region, we have 3 countries that have left. It is not, a lot of people feel that
they cannot leave West Africa.
Okay, you asked the question, so let me ask you the question. I'm trying to.
But you said they have left West Africa.
ECOWAS, yes, slip of tongue, ECOWAS. So it is believed that with Nigeria's leadership, it would have been managed better, or in another way, so the countries did not leave. But here we are today. They have finally left. We're in transition period, and this sort of affects stability within the region.
Well, this is something, I think it's this is a, you know, if you don't mind me saying, it's a very myopic way of looking at it when you just say, you know, 3 countries have left and therefore, you know, that's it, the world has come to an end. It's a chicken licking. I don't know if you know the story.
The world hasn't come to
licking.
an end, but this is the first time it's happening in ECOWAS, and this is significant.
No, it's not the first time.
No, so this is
it's
significant.
Not the first time.
So
have you heard of Mauritania?
So you think it's not significant?
Have you heard of Mauritania?
Yeah,
Do you know that Mauritania left in the past?
I know politics.
So
when
now,
saying 3 countries living at the same time, so you think it's not significant?
It's significant, but it doesn't mean that that is the end of West Africa, as
it's
you
not.
earlier said. Nor does it mean that it's the end of ECOWAS.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you have to look at the causal factors. What brought us to this point? It's not something that was created by Nigeria. Okay? You have to look at, take a country like Niger. If you look at the partnership framework for third countries, if you look at the laws that Niger passed in 2015, specifically there is law 2015-36, 2015-36, look it up on the internet. Now what that law did was to criminalize movement of people, because those that they were partnering with certain European countries at the time, the same Niger, that is very critical of European countries, partnered with them to criminalize migration, to criminalize the movement, free movement of people, in contravention of the ECOWAS movement, ECOWAS protocol on free movement. So the net effect of those sort of activities, coupled with the implosion of Libya after Gaddafi's downfall, after the proliferation of weaponry, of fighters from Libya, the training that has been going on, the culmination of all of that is what we are tackling today.
Right.
And which brought about the military coups that we're talking about. So it is not out of any action that Nigeria took. Okay, Nigeria was not part of Nigeria was not part of the G5 Sahel. Nigeria was not part of Operation Barkhane. It was these same countries that partnered with other countries, okay, and their forces that came into our region that brought about this situation that we're in. So what we are trying to do now is resolve those problems. So and don't forget that Nigeria was not a French colony either. So we need to get these sort of things clear.
We were not, definitely. But we still have that testy relationship. For instance, Niger, the other day, made accusations against Nigeria. Of course, the government has refuted it. It said that Nigeria is in cahoots with France in order to undermine it. So since you're here anyway, we'd like to ask you again for the, you know, for our viewership, is Nigeria in connivance with France in order to cause instability within the region?
That question, I think, honestly, you know, for Nigeria as a whole, I think I have some locus to speak on behalf of Nigeria, is insulting to Nigeria and Nigerians. For anyone to look at Nigeria to say that they are in cahoots. After I finished describing all of these things to you, Operation Barkhane, G5 Sahel, were we the ones that were partnering with France on that? Were we the ones that passed a law, Law 2015-36? So were we the ones that were engaged, that partnered on this arrangement that criminalized migration, that securitized the Sahel region?
So no. one of the reasons why that question comes up again is because of the renewed
what I would like to see
and partnership
what I would like to
France.
see what I would like to see is journalists like you and certain Nigerians that have been whipping up this position of a minority and certain people that spoke out in third countries, to actually look at how they are allowed to actually even come out to speak, to criticize Nigeria, or to make these spurious allegations. The country that they are trying to defend, the Niger, at the moment, the way things are, you cannot even come out to speak. You can't come, they're not operating on the constitution. The reason why we're able to do all of this is because we have the constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which safeguards, which guarantees our rights to free speech, our rights to association, all these freedoms. So, I would like to see us speak for Nigeria, for a change,
so
instead of always speaking for governments, regimes that do not even have a constitution to protect their people. Their own people cannot even come out to criticize the government.
That's why you are here, Honorable Minister.
We keep on going on with this, attacks on our own government, on ourselves.
Honorable Minister, you are here to make clarifications.
Which is what I'm doing.
Government official. So you haven't answered the question.
Oh no, I have.
So this renewed partnership and friendship with France, what do you see as the implications?
We've always had a relationship with France. It did not start today.
We have.
It did not start today, and there is nothing different about our relationship with France today. But it does not mean that other countries or other people have to dictate to Nigeria who it should have a relationship with.
Obviously, they don't have to.
I just finished describing to you the mess that was created in Libya. We cannot tackle the issue of insecurity in our region simply by a partnership or by being friends with the Sahelian countries. Even if you do that, you still have Libya to contend with. I just finished describing to you the weaponry that is being churned out of Libya, training, fighters, the terrorists, the criminal gangs, and so on and so forth. So to solve Libya, we need a relationship with France. We need a relationship with the United States of America. We need a relationship with Russia. We need a relationship with all of these major powers.
Okay,
that is how we can solve. So you cannot say that, oh no, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali have decided after all these years they no longer want to have anything to do with France. Therefore, Nigeria must be compelled. And meanwhile, Nigeria is the senior partner in the relationship to begin with. That then, because they have decided they don't want to have a relationship with France, therefore they must dictate to us and we must comply. We should no longer have any relationship with France. It's short-sighted, it is myopic, and it is not in Nigeria's national interest.
So those
which is something that President Tinubu, myself, and everybody in government or in public office from top to bottom has sworn to protect the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And so that is enshrined in our Constitution. I just finished talking to you. I'm not saying that you cannot challenge Nigeria's Constitution. There's a way to go about amending the Constitution if that is what you want to do.
So now you talk about security. You talk about security. We're part of the multinational joint task force. We had a couple of countries, Benin, Cameroon, Chad. What's the update on that? And I would also add, yes, we need international partnership with France, with United States, and a couple of other countries because of the fight against terrorism. But I will also say, that France has had the same relationship with these countries fighting terrorism, but it's been difficult for them to move the needle. So you would understand why people will have the alternative view that perhaps it hasn't been that helpful.
But I just finished explaining to you why that was the case. They acquiesced to it. The Sahelian countries that were in this partnership with EU, not even just France, it was with EU. You have to look up EU Sahel strategy, specifically EU Sahel strategy 2015 to 2020, where it was decided to tackle the twin evils of irregular migration, illegal migration, and terrorism. And to do so, there were certain partnerships or arrangements where certain groups, particularly Azawad groups, were franchised control of border areas in order to stop migration to Europe. And this migration, of course, is hyped up. The migrants that are flowing from sub-Saharan Africa into Europe is nowhere near what is coming from Syria, what is coming from Afghanistan, what is coming from Eastern Europe and Central Asia, in fact. Now, this ultimately, of course, led to a deterioration of the relationship between some of these Azawad groups that are irredentist, which means they want to break up their countries and create their own country, okay? And the military in those countries that have been trained psychologically, they've grown up in a system that says your main purpose in life is to keep your country together. You can see where there's going to be a collision. It is the outcome of this collision that we're having to deal with. Nigeria is not responsible for that. Nigeria has a constitution. Nigeria, and these constitutions, okay, the reason why we always say it's good for us to have constitutional governments is so that they will serve as guardrails for the country, and so that it's easier for you to also deal with other countries that have these constitutions. The moment you take out the constitution, then it's no holds barred. And if you look at Nigeria's constitution, again, the issue of sovereignty is central. And sovereignty is derived from the people. Okay? So it's Nigerians that give the government the power, that give it that sovereignty. Now, whether or not, you agree with how we go about it is different, but at least we have those guardrails, we have that framework to work with, which is better than not having it at all. So this is what we're dealing with, and this should be the central debate. So
what's the update with the multinational joint task force and the fight across borders on terrorism?
The multinational joint task force continues. The collaboration continues. Multinational joint task force simply means that we all contribute troops and yes, we have the right of pursuit. Okay, so if we are pursuing terrorists, we can go as far as, I believe, is 20 kilometers into the territory of another country, and this is historical. This is something that goes back to, you can look up Rabi bin Fadlallah. Okay, the 1897, towards the end of during the process of colonization. You can look at Bukar Ahmadidi in the 1940s, who was this is how even the colonial authorities were able to tackle security issues. So this is typically in a complex border area such as the Lake Chad region. This is something that has proven to work, and it continues to work. Right. And this is in contrast with G5 Sahel, Operation Barkhane, that did not work, and we're having to clean up the mess that it created.
Ghana.
When Nigeria's multinational joint task force, in partnership with other African countries, has worked.
Ghana, a new president has been sworn in, and our president attended the inauguration ceremony. What do you think we can learn from Ghana?
Well, we can learn from each other because we're both constitutional democracies. We operate, we're guided by constitutions, okay, that safeguard freedoms for our people, that spell out the rule of the game, how you arrive at having a government, and it's always better. You're talking to someone who grew up under military government, so it's not new to me. I grew up with people I grew up watching people that I knew, kids that I knew, having their parents tied to the stake and shot on Bar Beach. I was only able to vote in my 30s. So I know the difference. And there are many people like me. Maybe, well, anyway, you're perhaps too young to know that. Maybe you just grew up under democracy. But I know.
You're trying to find out my age.
No,
I will tell you.
I'm not trying to.
Time is so limited. There's so much to discuss. Let's talk about consular services. We continue to have, it's a little bit of a problem. We continue to have a shortage of visa stamps in our missions abroad. When people want to apply for visitors visas, they ask them to go for business visas because the visa stamps are not available. And I mean, this is a bit scandalous for a nation such as us. What measures are you taking to resolve this? I
will discuss with the Ministry of Interior. We worked closely together and we'll try and resolve that because we're not the ones that issue the visas, even though we control the environment, exactly. the embassy. But I'm pretty sure this is, you know, it's not just Nigeria that suffers from this. We have been contending with delays, sometimes going into a year, 2 years of student visas for Nigerian students that gain admission into institutions of higher learning in countries, particularly to our north, the global north, and they're not able to issue them visas. And the excuse they give us is that they don't have the manpower to contend with it, or sometimes they're short of stamps and stuff like that. So it's we're not unique when it comes to that. I'm not saying that it's an excuse, but of course it's something that, you know, we will continue to. And sometimes, you know, when there's a crunch, you have to prioritize.
Okay.
You know? So, you know, maybe some of the funds are going to healthcare and clean water, sanitation, and stuff like that.
We have to talk about economic diplomacy and trade and strategies Nigeria is employing to expand trade relations with the emerging markets. And is there any reason why Nigeria is not part of BRICS? You know, people would like to know.
Well, how long is BRICS? When was it formed? You know, we can't just start saying, oh, why are we not part of BRICS? What does BRICS even mean?
Or do you even consider it?
BRICS is Brazil, Russia, is it not? India, China.
But we're part of the global south.
Then it became BRICS. So
yes.
The way you're talking is as if BRICS has existed forever. Give us time.
Okay.
There are steps. We are in talks. We engage with the BRICS countries and the organizations, and we negotiate, and timing is critical. The president is very aware of this, and he will make the decision when it's best to go in, and it's a two-way thing as well, because there are steps also to joining. So we have to consider all these things. It's a matrix of variables. We also want to join G20, so you have to look at all of this so that the timing is in the best interest of Nigeria, because, like I said, President swore to defend the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria. Within that Constitution, paramount is national interest. So the timing has to coincide with when it's best, when it's best for Nigeria's national interest.
You talked about in multilateral institutions, and is Nigeria still interested in the United Nations permanent seat? Where are we on that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We're working on it, and you can see how Nigeria's advocacy, when Nigeria lent its voice to that, then you saw some of the major powers in the world, including the United States, just before the last United Nations General Assembly, the U.S. Also came out and said, we're fully in support of Africa getting 2 permanent seats in the United Nations Security Council. This, in part, is due to the diplomatic footwork that Nigeria did. Of course, along with other countries, but, you know, definitely because of our stature. You know, we're the only ones that sometimes look at ourselves diminutively.
Right.
On the world stage, we're seriously reckoned with. We're not small fry, huh?
Okay, although, okay, well, Honorable Minister, we would have loved to continue this conversation. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but thank you so much for taking the time to be on Arise Prime Time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.